Hey everyone, Sean here, and I just wanted to make this video regarding to the current situation with YouTube once again. This time it is involving with two content creators who happen to be black, and yes, it is JiDion and CoryxKenshin or Cory, to make it a little easier. And so there is a lot of talk going on around this whole topic. Involving with YouTube's just once again, this just really bad mishaps and mistakes and something perhaps beyond what's going on. What's beyond that. What is going on at YouTube. We still don't have an answer, of course. There's no statement at the moment. But I wanted to chime in my opinion because this channel has went through some similar things at one point, twice, in fact. So allow me to explain what happened with this channel before I go into the opinion of the current situation. The first action that this channel went through was a wrongful termination. At the time, I didn't know why the termination even happened in the first place, but I remember this happening during one of my last days of college in the quarter. We used the quarter system at the time. It was one of the last days of one of the quarters. I forget. It might have been could have been the spring quarter. Anyway, not too important. But I remember this was during right in the middle of my lunch. I was getting ready for a presentation, like a big presentation, right? Because it is one of the final projects for that quarter, and I literally just got, my channel disabled or terminated somehow or suspended because this was during 2014. So this was during the time when Google Plus was a thing. For those who don't remember, is basically Facebook, the Facebook kind of competitor from Google, and you can imagine where that went. So basically, I believe the reason why it was wrongfully terminated was because Google Plus did not allow for spamming of any kind, and it couldn't tell what was what. It seemed like so naturally my Google Plus would be, showing and sharing the links automatically of my YouTube videos every single time they went public. So I guess that was a form of spamming. And it because at the time YouTube and Google Plus were supposed to be connected or something like that. It was supposed to be like a all-in-one service and stuff like that. But because my Google Plus was community struck at the time because of the link spamming from YouTube videos, right? That was the reason, I guess, my channel was terminated through there. Luckily, that was fixed after emailing, stuff like that, but you can imagine the very first time I went through that, I felt like puking, honestly. I put a lot of work into it. I've had so many memories, sort of uploaded to this channel, especially at that time still, and it was just, it was very, to say the very least, frustrating and aggravating and scary at the same time, because I was earning some sort of money at the time too, and you can imagine, right? Could you imagine just suddenly lose a nice source of income all of a sudden, just like that, with no signs or telltale signs of anything, and that just happened at the time, and I went through so many emotions in that one fucking lunch, and I honestly don't know how I did not puke out my lunch at the time, but I kept eating somehow and kept going. And for those who were wondering, the presentation went well. But anyway, that was my first time. Gladly it was resolved that same night. But the next time that happened, it was 4 years later. It was during 2018, right? E3 was happening. My channel was disabled randomly. That one was just That one had no reason. There was no apparent reason behind it. I think it's the first time I kind of like figured out why that happened, and that to me was just like a mistake, right? It was just like bad circumstances. Google Plus was kind of shitty. The way they implemented it with each other was shitty. So I counted that as like a mistake, a pretty bad mistake on their part, right? But this time was a lot more suspicious. It felt like. At first off, looked like it was some sort of mistake because there were a number of channels that went through the same thing during that time. Again, this was 2018, right when E3 was happening, right? So it was June, E3 week, and my channel was randomly disabled along with a number of channels, including Darkside Phil, the SP. That one guy that's still somehow going. But anyway, he was facing that same problem as well, but oddly enough, his channel was up relatively quick after that. It was resolved relatively quick after the incident was reported. So his was like up within days, like few days, and then my channel took the entire week to get to return. So I got my channel back after the week, but it was very frustrating because I couldn't cover E3 basically. And there was some clear favoritism, I felt like, at hand, because obviously the bigger channels like DSP and several others got their channel back because, of course, they make them more money. So that in that situation, I feel that it was clear cut that favoritism played a part, at least to some extent. And so smaller channels like mine, couldn't get their channel back until a week later. Instead of rather than just trying to get all the channels like up and working at once, for some reason they only the bigger channels got their channel like way sooner than at least with my channel. So to me, in my eyes, looking back on it, I felt like at least to some degree favoritism did play a hand, and it really seems like that's happening with what's going on with JiDion and Cory's channel. First off, I mean, both of these channels involved with some sort of like content that they were reacting to or involved with one way or the other, and they did their thing, right? Reacting or playing, right? Whether it's a video game or just a video, and they were doing their thing. They putting their flavor into their video, and somehow, for some reason, they get the content claim or the age restriction or the strike of some form. In JiDion's case, it was a strike, I believe, and then Cory was age restricted with the video involved. And yet, when it came to other channels doing the same thing as they were doing, they somehow weren't getting the same problem here. And I can connect that back to my channel where especially with the 2018 incident, it only happened to a couple of a big handful of channels. It didn't happen to every channel. It only happened to my channel, Darkside Phil's channel, so on and so forth. It didn't happen with everybody. Strangely enough, it only happened to those channels, a handful of channels, including mine. So that already seems to be strange. But in their situation, that seems to be very much more hand-picked, if you know what I'm saying. So from what I've gathered, it seems like every time Cory was kind of like up and going, right? He's trending somehow after he takes a break and comes back to make a video. He always, from what it sounds like, he always somehow gets some sort of restriction on his video, and so that really does raise some flags, very suspicious flags. And with all this happening, right, between JiDion and Cory, I definitely don't blame them for them thinking that this has to do with race, the racism that they've been mentioning throughout their videos. And there are people who are trying to argue against that, like, oh, why it always has to be something about race, blah blah blah. I mean, you have to look at it from their perspective too. I mean, if you're, let's say your content has been restricted, copyright struck, or something to that sort, and you look up on other content creators to see if they got the same thing, and you start to sort of like connect the pieces, right? If let's say someone of the same race with you also had some sort of similar treatment, wouldn't you start to sort of like assume that? I don't know. I mean, it seems like it seems like it would be logical. I would be understanding at least. I can kind of like sympathize/empathize with that sort of logic or conclusion. And if those circumstances sort of like come to play, it's like, yeah, of course you're gonna kind of start to assume that way. In my situation, of course, the first time being just a bad system, I believe for the most part, because Google Plus. But with the second time, I definitely don't think race did involve, right? Because it was just a random sort of people, right? A random handful of people, but random no less. And I think in that situation, for the most part, favoritism played more of a hand than anything. But here, I don't want to, I don't mean to like try to downplay any of their sort of analysis on things, And so while I don't think, I personally don't think it has to do with, the anything involved with racism. I think I don't blame them for thinking that way, is what I'm trying to say here. But also what's happening, it seems like, is some form of favoritism or biased, right? At least to some degree. So it's like, someone at YouTube is, looking through the videos, and they see this one guy up and going, and they have their own favorite, right? Their own favorite YouTuber they're looking out for. And they're kind of like, they're, in their eyes, someone like Cory could be surpassing their favorite YouTuber, and they could possibly be like, oh no, I should do something somehow in my power to prevent that. And maybe that could be possible, but there could be something a little more deeper than that, possibly. And I've been looking around other people's like sort of videos, people reacting to this situation, including Asmongold. And I think Asmongold's point does make a lot of sense, which involves with some sort of quota that the people at YouTube have to meet, to you need to flag or copyright claim or whatever it is. You need to monitor this many videos in one day or a week or whatever the quota is, because as Asmongold said, a lot of jobs have these quotas of some sort in order for them to sort of meet the demand or meet their sort of like standards and stuff like that, to meet their goals, to perform well in order to make money and do their job well and make sure that things are all, them gears are turning, instead of like, oh yeah, we did some bit, it's okay, blah blah blah. There's no like fluff around it. They want to make sure they meet those numbers and exceed those numbers, and it makes their office look really good, or their apartment look real good, right? And with that, a lot of mistakes can happen. And even Asmongold mentioned about the government agencies in jobs and such like that, including the IRS. So if that can happen with the IRS and other such government driven jobs. Of course, this is going to happen with YouTube. So I think this is the most natural sort of situation that could play a part of this whole situation, or if that does make sense. I apologize for not wording things well, but what I'm trying to say here is that it does feel natural, right? This could be just a lot of bad circumstances, and unfortunately, random individuals who happen to be JiDion and Cory are involved, and so they're gonna draw to the conclusion that we are hearing right now, which is the favoritism and of course the racism. Right? Again, I don't blame them for that. Right? Is that the correct analysis? Who knows? We won't know. It's not like they're gonna just straight up say, "Oh yeah, we're racist." Like it's not gonna just be black and white like that. So we really don't know. So I don't think there's really a wrong or right answer for right now, unless they're just crazy and they're just gonna come out and say, "Yeah, we're straight up racist." Like again, it's not gonna happen. So there's obviously not a clear-cut answer. So it definitely is difficult to just like, have a direct sort of diagnosis of what and why it is happening. So it is definitely frustrating one way or the other, and I do feel for them one way or the other because, again, my channel went through a similar situation twice. Of course, one being a bad system of sorts, but the second time, that felt more in line with their situation, at least to some extent. So I feel like there is some form of favoritism going on. I mean, not to mention really like, not only this is happening with YouTube, but I also wanted to mention this with Twitch. Twitch is very much guilty of this right now with the favoritism. There's a situation with with one of the female streamers having sexual relations with somebody, assuming I'm just assuming that's her boyfriend or whatever, on stream. She's talking to the chat and everything, and yet she only had a 7-day ban. But with JiDion, who also streamed on Twitch at the time, was either permaban or banned for a long time because he sent a hate raid on Pokimane because he thought she was like being racist or something like that, and I think there was some sort of misunderstanding from what I've gathered. JiDion then sent some sort of hate raid on Pokimane, so that's why he was banned, permaban or whatever. Which he apologized, and in fact he and Pokimane made up, and they've come to terms. They in fact even took a picture together eating some sort of burger for a mukbang of some sort of, or like a collaboration. So that kind of tells you of what happened between the two. They made up, and they are willing to move on. And yet someone like this female streamer is able to just have a 7-day ban, and once that ban is over, she can just carry on her business like nothing happened, pretty much. So there is a very blatant display of favoritism, one way or the other, whether it's on YouTube or Twitch. It's just like, I don't know. It's these social media platforms / content creation platforms, man. They irk me one way or the other. It sucks because I content create one way or the other on both of these streams. At one point, I was streaming on Twitch, and I stopped streaming on Twitch recently because it just made more sense to me to stream on YouTube because I already have all the partnership tools kind of just sitting there. So that's why I started to sort of tunnel my sort of, or change my sort of direction more towards YouTube. And I've been a YouTuber for a very long time. I've been YouTubing since '06. And having to sort of like sit through and see this all sort of unfold in the last, what, 16 years, it's just like very frustrating. I got to experience the good times, and now I'm experiencing the very rough and bad times with YouTube. And you would think they would like just be at their lowest now and then start to go up, but then it's just, it's so it's just bad. Like there's no other way to put it. Especially with it's just so damning, right? Of the lack there isn't racism going on, because there was a situation with Actman and Quantum TV, and I don't want to get into that too much, but it really adds up to the point of YouTube being just shitty. Quantum TV made a video about Elden Ring and explained his opinion about it, and people were disagreeing with his opinion. And I think he made another video and essentially said some very bad things, which I don't even want to say it here just to be safe. But basically, told them to do this in a very, in a very certain matter, right? Whether it was out of context or not, or whether it's out of context or not, like, it's just something you don't say over a video game, bro. Like, it's like, dude, learn to take some criticism, man. Like, I get it, I mean, but he just, anyway. So Quantum TV also started to copyright claim like a lot of videos that were talking bad about him, or disagreeing on his take, because he can't take criticism himself. And so people were starting to sort of dig into his other activity, and he had transphobic or both homophobic takes and views on other platforms, and they tried to bring that to light to YouTube during Pride Month, right? And so with all that, very sound evidence, it seems like, that this person is not fit for the platform, he somehow is still on there. And yet Actman got the worst of it. Granted, he did say some rather dumb things, or said something in a dumb way, and so that got him demonetized. And yet Quantum TV got away clean. And so obviously he thinks he's in the right, so he's going to continue what he has been doing. And now he's like he's bringing up the veganism card, and that maybe he might have brought the racism card at one point. They're trying to get me demonetized because I'm black or whatever. But I could be just assuming things. It's been a little short while in that situation, but the point being is that YouTube is just so out of touch with a lot of things, and it seems like they stand up for diversity and all this stuff, Black History Month, and then I believe they were pretty strong on Black Lives Matter, and of course they had their Pride Month, right? But with all this stuff happening, right, in the past few months, it really makes them look like they don't really, simply put. And they all just do this for marketing. They all just do this to advertise themselves as diverse and oh, we listen to the community, and we listen to you, we're good, it's just straight up virtue signaling, and it just comes off as fake. And so whenever they do those, like, oh, let's feature the, in this, for example, they feature the black creators, right? Corey said it himself. It just comes off as patronizing, and just straight up, just it just feels fake because they don't do all this stuff. It's like, oh, let's bring up these creators because not because they're hard workers, but they're of a certain skin color or race and stuff like that. It's just, oh my goodness. I don't, I like, I don't have the greatest ways of, putting words into, you know, these things. But all I can say is just, YouTube, like, what are you doing still? Seriously. Even after 4 years, I was hoping for just YouTube starting to sort of like get all the gears all oiled up and lubed up and cleaned out and stuff like that to make sure they're turning right. But man, they have not fixed themselves this whole time, and they still are tripping on their face. Essentially, man, it's a mess at the workplace. I'm sure. I'm sure working at YouTube as the person who flags and copyright claims, who monitor these videos are just being worked to the boot. You know what I'm saying? Like it is such a mess. I guess my wording is messy, which is appropriate to the situation altogether here. So I apologize for not being the greatest speaker and all, but all I can say is that I've been through kind of a similar situation, so I do feel for them. And YouTube just needs to really step it up, along with Twitch. These content creating platforms is just, it's like, of course, one of the greatest things, but also one of the worst things right now that's happening within our like sort of modern culture, as as a whole. And sometimes I do question, right? Do I really want to continue doing this on YouTube? Same with Twitch, right? Do I feel right streaming on here because the things that they've done, the actions or the lack of action they have taken, despite whether it's YouTube or Twitch, standing up to the LGBT sort of communities, the black community, whatever you name it. It really just starts to come off as fake, man. Anything they stand up for is just nothing. It means nothing. And that's one of the things that do frustrate me. But just the fact that they just have so much misguidance. They have done nothing, it seems like, to fix themselves. It really is all the more frustrating. But I do understand that people have their lives, and they want to put bread on the table through YouTube or Twitch. It essentially is a job for them, and I do understand that people continue to upload or content create or stream on their respective platforms. I mean, I still upload to YouTube because it's a hobby of mine, which happens to still give me some sort of pocket money. But, jeez Louise, man. They are definitely not making it easier for any of us. I hope more and more people do talk about this, and it really, really needs to start changing. So again, I really do hope things work out for JiDion and Cory, of course. Not only that, I hope it just doesn't happen with anyone else at some point. I do hope YouTube directly addresses the problems with Quantum TV, of what was going on there. But I'm probably not gonna. I mean, I'm likely not gonna hold my breath on it. But at least with this, right? This situation, I hope there's some sort of investigation launching. I hope things. It's a start, right? I hope it will be a start of things for things to come in a good way. But something tells me that this is YouTube, so and Twitch, of course. So nothing really is gonna happen anytime soon, I'm afraid. But Pammy can only tell, so we just have to just wait and see. So again, I do apologize for this rather not perfect, video when it comes to the wording of things. Again, I'm not the clearest speaker here, but that I wanted to make a video about it some way or the other. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents on it, on this Hawke Talks. So thank you very much for tuning in for this video. Really appreciate it, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, but of course, please comment on how you guys feel about this situation. Of course, look into it first and then provide your comment on it, because it is important to understand most of what is going on here before you give out some sort of opinion. But either way, if you have any comments about it, please leave them down below, and I'd love to read them. So again, I really do hope this something happens from it, but again, we'll have to wait and see. By the way, thank you very much, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Sean out.